Saam dit door. Blikkies. Light saam. 3-4 bottoms. Newspaper, white paper, light steel, heavy in the balsak, and we take it all and collect all, and they show us on the slip, on the slip when we pay how many money we get for the things and how many kilos is the things, and is a living for us. It's a living for us.
Slip meneer.
Dankie meneer.
Dan sy geniet die dag verder.
Selle dag. Seker. I make it at 2 rand, so every day is not the same day, but at least it's something. Thank you. I must show you my coins also.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So what's that, 62 rand?
This is a 62 rand.
We don't have a good handle on the numbers, but 60 to 90,000 people involved in waste picking informally nationally has been quoted. And then also from our industry bodies, so the Petcos, the Polycos, the paper, recycling, glass, they estimate that in some streams about 80% of the post-consumer material that enters our formal waste economy comes from the informal sector. And if you look at that extensive collection mechanism we already have through the informal sector, our waste economy has been able to develop to quite high quality diversion and recycling rates because of that informal collector network. And our industry bodies have been able to focus their funding less on the collection mechanisms and more on the market development processing side.
People come in here, it's the first thing that the first reaction is, oh my God, the smell, it smells like sour milk, or it smells like this, or it doesn't smell good. Then they ask me, what do you smell? And I say, money. It's money. Waste can be money. Ladies. You call it waste. For me, that's not waste. That's the raw material. It might be your waste, but it's my input product. And then what comes out at the end that I'm sending to landfill is my waste.
Recycling is critical. There are certain plastics which we cannot do without, and we need to find ways to make sure that these plastics circle through our economy and create what we call a circular economy. And I think obviously recycling has an important role to play there. But we have this limited resources on the planet, and at the moment we're operating in a broadly linear kind of economy where you dig something up, you use it and you dispose of it. And all the evidence around us points to the fact that we cannot continue along that trajectory. We have to start finding systems which mimic the kind of natural cycles of going round and round and round. I guess it comes down to that point of using this word waste is actually a misnomer. And it doesn't have to be waste. Waste is something you really can't use, but most of the time we can use it, and we just think about it a little bit differently.
I really got excited about waste when I first visited a landfill to see where all the materials that we produce, where it goes to, and then how a landfill is actually engineered to contain the materials that we are throwing away.
Currently, the situation we sit in, we do have useful materials of value going to landfill. We have a large number of people who are unable to support themselves and their family and have been unable to access education.
1 rand per kilo and 55 rand for copper. What is the best price now?
The wire.
The copper wire. Aluminium and stuff like that?
Yeah, but like a 5 rand
a kilo.
The price is like 15 rand.
And besides metal, what else do you core up?
Now I do like this. Some people come here for clothes.
But in a day?
In the
So in a day you're looking about
67 rand.
67 rand.
In the day.
and you could do it every single day.
Every single day.
Money for that.
I think that we, as a buyback center, we create a lot of jobs. There's a lot of people out there that doesn't have a hope for tomorrow. But through a buyback center, a lot of these guys, they make quite a living out of it, and they're here every day. So that it is quite rewarding to see that, that there is hope for everyone out there.
There's monetary value for the waste picker and the buyback centers in waste, and especially plastic. The price that they get for their waste doesn't differ so much, doesn't vary so much as compared to cardboard and paper. It's more stable, and even metal.
The reality is that if I walk around the streets or drive around the streets, I see people collecting plastic, and they wouldn't do that if there wasn't an economic incentive for them to do that. In South Africa, where you have such high levels of unemployment, I would guess the argument would be that, any economic opportunity is better than none. I think it could definitely be managed better, and those groups could be better enabled.
En is dit goeie werk?
Nie altyd goeie werkie, jy verdien nie elke dag wat jy is, maar hoe jy verdien en hoe jy op die skarrel afkom en waar het is.
Maar is dit beter as ander werk?
Dit is nie beter as ander werk nie.
Nee. Wat 'n ander tipe werk kon jy doen?
Ek het van nylonspinne gewerk, die ouersheid.
En dan wat het gebeur?
Toegemaak.
En hoeveel geld het julle van jou gemaakt? Is dit genoeg?
Dat is nog nooit genoeg.
Want ek sien jy het baie goedes gehad op jou trolley. Dit was so vol. Is dit genoeg vir jou en jou familie?
Ja, nee, is 'n pot kosse waarde en kragkoek en wat ewe. Nee, ek gou môre maar weer wyn.
In recycling, I think if you take the employment per tonnage that you recycle, I mean, we're creating more jobs than I think any other industry.
So there was a recent study published by UNEP, the African Waste Management Outlook, and they estimate that there's about $8 billion worth of resources that basically this is the value that could be added to the economy in Africa if we value those resources and re-enter them into the economy. So the potential in a waste economy, from all indications globally, is really big in terms of economic development and income creation.
It's more about humans and the management side of the waste that you generate. People must become more, think more about what they're doing. It is a physical problem. Some people are just too lazy to get up and put it in a recycling bin, throw it in one, throw it away, and as soon as it leaves your garden, it's out of their mind. There should be a mindset.
It seems like we're sort of on the cusp of it at the moment, in that people are becoming more and more aware the pollution and the problems with plastic particularly and other substances, and they don't want it to go into landfills. So they feel as if they feel better, I think, if they actually recycle. They feel as if they're doing something.
100 rand is nice for me. And it's a 50 rand is always nice for me too. I can provide for my family. But most of the time the IDT take out trolleys. And now how I'm gonna make food for the table if they take out trolleys. But I built my own trolley. Like in the wheels, I get the wheels from somebody, so I built my own trolley. So I walk from my house to Faro to the bins, and I collect all the empty bottles, beer bottles, everything that like recycling. Put it in my bale sack. I get it here, and I sort it out. Bottles, separate bottles together, newspapers together, white paper together, and I bring it here. Sometimes I get 100 rand is nice for me. And like 50 rand is always nice for me too. I can provide for my family.
They're not allowed to sort the materials next to the street, and they can't do it in this industrial area. So they're a nuisance at the moment for everybody, because they make a mess, unfortunately. If we can get a piece of land that they can go and sort the materials, then that will be great. Because I think a lot of the recycling gets done by these guys. For our company, it's 70%, 80% of the recycling gets done by them.
I think consumers don't really understand what they can and can't do and how they can play a part. And so we're working on trying to develop a system which will give you a good idea of what is a so-called circular plastic as opposed to one that's really not. Something that's reusable, recyclable, contains recycled materials, all those kind of things make it more beneficial compared to the things like the chip wrapper or the sucker stick, which ends up straight on the ocean after one use and cannot be recycled or cannot be reused.
Recycling starts at home. Your waste management should start at home. And if that kid grows up knowing about waste management, he becomes a director of a company who understands it and makes it go through his factory that we get rid of the waste correctly. Even if he's not a director of a company, it could be a supervisor, it could be even in his own house in the future. Look after your environment and manage it correctly, because the cleaner we get it from source, like your house, the better it is. I can show you material where it comes off a landfill and it just gets piled and sent to us. It goes into a compactor truck and it all just gets milled up, and when it comes out you could have had beautiful plastic in there that is now heavily contaminated. So to separate at source, we'll get it cleaner, much quicker and easier for everybody.
Are they good to you?
Yeah, some people, but not other people. Some people close the gates and say, go away.
The informal sector is a very vulnerable group, but where you see separation at source being punted through more formal mechanisms, that's where you get severe vulnerability of the groupings where they are currently. It's been documented where there's been more formal separation at source programs that picker incomes have decreased by 2/3 in some cases. And if you look at, for example, the city of Cape Town now requiring separation at source from all residents, there's no, as I understand, there's no strategic plan in place which would ensure that there is protection across the value chain. So simply requiring that is probably going to impact very negatively on the informal sector, is probably going to remove income from the sector and increasingly marginalize an already vulnerable group.
Whereas waste sorting is quite a key part in terms of our recycling economy currently, and it is also a large job creator at the moment. It is lower end jobs, but it does provide that the resources are getting out of the waste system to where it can get beneficiated. If we start going through an over-mechanized system, there is an opportunity to lose resources, because at the moment we have realized in terms of the South African context that hand sorting can provide a more higher value and a more quantity coming off that sorting belt than from a mechanical system.
And looking at a circular economy where you retain materials within an economy and you value the people who engage with those materials, and the potential there in a developing country to be labour inclusive in the way that you remanufacture materials and you close that loop on the resources that we have available.
We see ourselves as the good guys. We're doing I think we're the people that's doing something to keep waste from dump sites, and we're only a small part of it. Well, 95% of our material that's coming in is post-consumer. So I would say that we divert that from landfill sites to our facility and upcycling it into a product that can be used again.
As South Africa, we're actually uniquely positioned to do well in terms of the circular economy, because if you look at developed countries globally, they have many high-tech waste solutions, which in general, in previous decades, actually just meant incineration. But as a result, if you look at our mechanical recycling rates in South Africa, So the recycling that goes through to recovery and remanufacture into a similar product is that they're actually very high compared to the rest of the world, or the developed world, because they are burning basically a lot of their resources. So where we are currently, we already have a system which values the material at a much higher material value than we currently get in developed countries. So we're actually positioned quite well in terms of a circular economy.
I think what excites me about this space is that there's a whole lot of people who are applying their minds to figuring it out. And the more people try this, the more we're realizing there are solutions to almost all of these problems. They're complex, not simple, and particularly in developing worlds where we don't have the same sense of technology, it's not going to happen overnight, but it can happen, and just the example of it happening is something that we should be pushing, saying it's possible for a country like South Africa.
So sometimes the people said, yeah, you do this stuff and all that. I said, no, it's my bread and my butter. I don't care what anybody say, as long as I got something on the table and clothes and so on. So I don't worry about what people say about me. But my daughters told, Mommy, you must stop. I said, who's going to provide if I stop? Yes, you must take a break. I said, no, I can't take a break. Who's going to provide if I take a break? Okay, you can do it. You can go walk to Bellville for a No, it's too cold. So it's not cold for me. I must move on.